Okay, so my name is Charles Clayton, and I'm the Chief Executive of the Primary Trauma Care Foundation. We are talking about this now as life-saving action, because that's what it really does. And I've been with the foundation for 7 years on a part-time basis. The problem in the world today in terms of health has shifted very recently. It used to be that for the Millennium Development Goals set in the year 2000, that the big issue were the communicable diseases, malaria, TB, HIV/AIDS, etc., and they were the biggest killers. In 2015, when they were reviewed, new goals were set, the Sustainable Development Goals, and this is by the UN, and those goals enhanced the health aspects. But what's interesting is that since 2015 there's been new publications by the World Health Organization making it clear that the biggest killer now for the younger half of the world's population, the most productive and most important half of the population for the developing countries, for those people, the biggest killers are not the communicable diseases, they are trauma, physical injury. In fact, physical injury accounts for more deaths than all the other three I've just mentioned combined. That means that trauma is top of the agenda when it comes to helping the developing world to avoid these crippling deaths and disabilities. The need is not going to go away because of things like road traffic injuries, which cause the majority cause of trauma around the world. And that is a problem which is growing, unfortunately, exponentially. Other forms of physical damage are growing as well. So this is going to be with us for a while. And other medical needs are of course important, but this one has suddenly become the top, statistically speaking, for the 5 billion people who need it. There's not much happening that really meets the real need. Yes, there are certainly activities to extend trauma care, but the typical activity is one of extending a first world model, an expensive model, that involves emergency rooms, ambulances, oxygen, and a bag full of kit. And that is not going to happen for the majority of the world for a very long time. To get it rolled out to meet those needs, it really needs something else. And that something else is why we exist. The problem we're trying to solve is to get access to safe care in the management of severe injury, trauma, with minimal costs and minimal equipment, which means for the majority of the world. So what's going to be done to roll it out? We are probably the only organisation which has done it on such a scale, done it without resources, in a low resource environment, a cost-free delivery. It's done by volunteers, and it's more like a movement, in fact, and not a highly controlled thing. It's a movement. But that movement has been proven to work, which means that if there's going to be an answer to this one, and if the assessment of the Sustainable Development Goals take place in 2030, if they assess it at that time, they could well be saying it's the primary trauma care method which has met this incredible need. In fact, we are finding all the time now, it's almost daily, that we discover that the courses are being taught and instructors trained, even without our knowledge, course after course, country after country, all around the world, and they are adapted to the situation. And so even in our training courses, if we think people are getting too reliant on some of the kit that can be available in a training room, we'll push it aside and ask for volunteers to lie on the table, and they will practice, rather than using a dummy, they will practice using a volunteer. And we do that because it's replicable, and that's the way that we can make it appropriate and affordable. And speaking of affordable, our courses are provided with no charge around the world. So it's an incredible way to make it accessible to the rest of the world. So, for example, in India, there's a huge issue of two-wheeled accidents. There's a campaign for helmets, there's a campaign for better roads, and I've met with officials of the Road Safety Department on that issue in India. But the primary trauma care team in New Delhi work with the Indian Head Injury Foundation, and those two organizations collaborate closely because head injuries are becoming unfortunately, a major feature of the trauma scene. We're not saying that we've solved the problem. We think we have a formula which works. It's been proven to work, and it just needs to be scaled up. But we're also saying we're learning. I don't think there is such a thing as a fixed body of knowledge on this one. And so we try to promote a global learning community where everybody is developing better ways to do things, cheaper ways, more efficient and more effective ways, adaptable to the local situation. And the Primary Trauma Care Foundation exists for that very purpose.